put down any of the... Oh no, of course he's not playing it, is he? That's why I'm getting mixed up. Yeah, because this is just straight Zoroark Decidueye, kind of throwing back to the older Zoroark Decidueye variants.
Yeah, it's just 4 Rowlet, 1 Dartrix, 4 Decidueye, 4 Zoroark, 4 Zorua, and 1 Ditto as well. So it's just trying to fill the board. Unlike the sort of Decidueye Ninetales, where you just have 1 Swampert trying to draw you all the cards, you just fill your board with lots of Zoroarks instead, and the Decidueye becomes more of the afterthought, just the math fixer here and there that can get you into perfect numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's going back into Ramon's turn after we saw a Writer's Beating from Fabricio's side, taking the first knockout of the game. And Ramon has a lot of Zoroarks out. He's got 3, and that is the maximum number he'll be able to go for. Now, he does have a counter gain in his hand, it looks like. And I believe it was that Guzma that was just played there?
Yeah, he's optioned to Guzma, trying to deny Fabrizio from getting these Decidueyes into play. These are going to be the headaches that he has to get around. Whenever he can deny a Decidueye, that's going to be what he wants to do. Even though he has that Weavile available to him, you never really want Fabrizio to get his full setup going, and you want to force him to basically put more Zoroarks into place, because then it just feeds your Weavile later down the line.
Yeah, and at this point, he's kind of put Fabrizio in a position where he can get maybe 1 Decidueye out, although he actually just opts to trade it away anyway. Because he has the second one in his hand.
Yeah, that's true. He's drawn into even more rare candies and timables, so it was a good option from Fabrizio to deny one of those Rowlets, as we are going to see more trades from both players, trying to draw as many cards as possible. Yep. He's going to commit a Grass Energy to his Decidueye GX on the bench. It might be some counterplay here, trying to Guzma Ramon straight back here.
Probably going to be targeting down that Sneasel, knowing that as long as those Sneasels stay out, they could become Weaviles, which would just prevent Fabrizio from being able to get out more than the amount of ability-bearing Pokemon he has already. 150 is just about manageable. As soon as he puts that 4th down, that Weavile is basically dealing with almost anything that Fabrizio can put out.
And he's going to try and pressure Ramon even further by doing his 1 Feather Arrow onto the Ditto Prism Star, forcing him to make the decision as sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it's just going to give up a free prize. And he's going to finish his turn with the Writer's Beating. Once again, keeping up with the prize trade right now.
Yes, so up comes the Sneasel from Ramon's side. Now, something important to mention is that unlike the previously where it was mainly the 70 HP Sneasel that's being played, now with the advent of Professor Elm's Lecture, people are opting instead to go for the 60 HP Sneasel. So this is... obviously, it's kind of a different attack that they can go for. Now, it's funny because originally that Sneasel, that one that it's kind of a pseudo reprint of, had a retreat cost of 0, but I believe it now has a retreat cost of 1.
Yeah, it does. We are going to see the Alolan Ninetales GX comes down. He's going to go for a Timeable, which ends up getting double tails, which is a little bit unfortunate. Now it means he's going to start trading. He has got that backup Ultra Ball, so he always has the out to try and find himself a Weavile here. But the ideal was to get the Timeable rolling for him so that he could take the knockout. There's currently 3 abilities in play for Fabrizio, so it's going to require some combination of Choice Band, Kukui, stuff like that is going to be the way to go here. He does indeed draw into his Weavile. Can he get anything else going here?
He's got the Unit Energy, but he doesn't have... he's got the Choice Band too. Okay, so actually all he needs at this point is Kukui, and that does seal the knockout. And
he's got Ultra Ball, so he could Ultra Ball for Tapu Lele and get him there. That looks to be what he's going for here. He's going to get rid of Zoroark GX, and he's going to start digging for that Tapu Lele. You can see straight away he knows what he's after. Yep. Wonder Tag, Professor Kukui. This Weavile is going to do this big up trade of doing exactly 210 thanks to that Devoured Field. Yeah, that's... sort of turns like this sort of prove exactly why Devoured Field is so important as a math fixer. It means that even if your opponent tries to be a bit smart and only limits themselves to 3 abilities, Choice Planned plus Kukui plus Devoured Field is still just enough to get a KO on a Zoroark GX. Back over to Fabrizio now as Ramon is taking his 2nd and 3rd prizes of the game, and it's really down to him to deal with this 1 Weavile. He can start going crazy with abilities now at the very least, because there's no real threat of Sneasel coming down later, because Ramon has filled up his board with Zoroark, Ninetales and that Tapu Lele, so he can start going hard, digging for more Rowlets and trying to develop his board state all over again.
Yes, he can, and especially... Although, there is a slight risk. If Fabrizio doesn't find a double colourless and he puts down all his abilities and actually can't kill the Weavile, that could be disastrous, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be rough for him, but you want to get the Zoroarks on the board so that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You want to draw as many cards as possible most of the time. He's considering the Ultra Ball here. He's actually going to trade one away as he has 2 in his hand. Able to pick up a double Colorless Energy, which is a great hit for him.
That is. So
also a Rowlet.
Yep, so he's no longer worried about that situation where he just gets owned by the Weavile from putting it down to many abilities. But it is said, down goes the Rowlet. And he's in a much better position now. We are
going to see, looks like he's going to Feather Arrow the bench here. And he can just end his turn on a Riotous Beating if he wishes.
And which he does do.
Yep, that's exactly what he's going to go for. That Weavile, obviously a huge threat. It does put him on odd prizes, which is good for good for Ramon, and that's exactly why the Weavile is put into the deck to make it, force the opponent to deal with it. Is going to be pretty much what you're going for. We're also going to see the Rescue Stretcher, and he's just thinking about whether he wants to use... he's accidentally picked up his deck first, but he's...
Oh, no. Oh, dear. So... Obviously, he's not allowed to... Rescue Stretcher is not a card that enables you to look at your deck, so that is, technically speaking, well, not even technically speaking, it is an illegal move. It would be just up to the judges here just to decide what the appropriate course of action to remediate this will be.
Yeah, it was likely that he's trying to Rescue Stretcher, trying to get the Weavile recycled back into his deck, most likely. So that is just a small hiccup here. We're going to see the judges resolve this issue pretty quickly, obviously. They do great work, and they're just going to make sure that everyone's aware of their decision, and they can then continue on with the game, which is exactly what we're going to see here, as Ramon does continue to get those Weavile pieces back recycled into his deck. And he's going to shuffle them in now.
Yeah, there it is. So Rescue Stretcher shuffling in the free Pokemon, as you just said, Joe, and now... See, now the game gets kind of interesting here, because both players are set up pretty well in terms of their board states. Ramon's got 3 Zoroarks and a Ninetales out. Fabrizio's got 2 Zoroarks and a Decidueye. They're both on 3 prizes each. In theory, in terms of tempo of damage, Ramon gets the first attack here, so should be able to take knockouts first. But if Fabrizio is able to get out a second Decidueye, that Feather Arrow damage will add up to the point where he has the better sort of damage tempo, as it were. And now Ramon's benched a Sneasel as well, which makes things even more interesting.
This was exactly what I was going to say. It all depended on Ramon's support of a turn. The Guzma puts him down to 2 prize cards. He's also threatening that Weavile now again by being able to trade into the Sneasel that he just recycled. He now goes down to 2 prize cards. The Sneasel is threatening game on his end, so he's going to force Fabrizio now to use his own Guzma and stop him developing as much as possible. So he's put... Fabrizio in a really awkward situation.
Yeah, there's a really solid turn there from Ramon's side, sort of doing exactly what he needs to do to try and cement a lead and actually take that through to equal a game win. And now Fabrizio, like you just said, Joe, really needs to sort of decide how he wants the best approach just to make sure that he can do the same in return to Ramon. And there goes another trade to try and dig for more stuff to do that with.
He has the Guzma in hand, so he can definitely deal with the Sneasel, putting himself down to 2 prize cards. So if he can pretty much do what Ramon did, just instead of getting a Sneasel down, he gets another Rowlet down, he's once again threatening it on his own end, because he can use the Decidueye to Feather Arrow something else, put maybe the Tapu Lele in closer range, or even just put one of these Zoroarks into closer range whilst using Guzma on the Sneasel. He could still be in good shape here.
Yeah, it looks like he didn't. Either there's no Rowlet left for him, or he decided that's actually not the best way to go. Just opted to Ultra Ball for the third Zoroark instead, which is still also really good. I mean, it means more trades, more cards drawn, and maybe he can enable himself to find like a game-winning Guzma or something like that, because all he actually needs to win off of Guzma is a couple more Feather Arrows, and then a couple more bench Pokemon to do enough of Riotous Beating to KO the Tapu Lele. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's all out of Rowlets. They're all in the discard pile for him. He actually has the Ditto Prism Star in his discard pile, but that's not too big of a deal.
No.
He does have 1 more Feather Arrow to go. He's going to put it onto the Alolan Ninetales. That means that it means Ramon can't simply Acerola up the Lele if that was going to be a option. It forces him to have Max Potion and Acerola as well, like all in one go.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how this game closes.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's always a good idea to try and create as many win conditions for yourself as you can, because if you only leave one out, then there are so many cards out there like Acerola and Max Potion that can take those win conditions away. So doing this, like you just said, forces Ramon to have more ways of stopping Fabrizio from winning.
And he is once again going to use trade to get through his deck. He's going to put down that Sneasel once again. He's determined to give him that win condition available, because of course it's a great way to deal with the Zoroark all in one hit. And if Fabrizio cannot win next turn, he's going to be in good shape here. we're going to see both choice bands being committed, and he's actually going to use a judge here to try and reduce Fabrizio's hand so that he can't get that Guzma double colorless energy knockout.
All of a sudden, that's the decision to get, well, even though he probably didn't have any rowlet left, that decision to get another Zoroark looking very much the wiser, as he now, otherwise this judge could have really sort of got down his options to a point where he wasn't actually able to, seal out the game. But now he has access to free trades. This judge won't hurt him anywhere near as much. Yeah,
Ramon definitely trying his best to make it difficult for Fabrizio. He's already drawn into, he's already drawn into Energy Guzma. I think he's already pretty settled now. He just needs to get some more bench Pokemon in order to get the Righteous Beating to do enough damage.
Yeah, because of course with the Feather Arrow and the Devoured Field, Righteous Beating will be able to do enough, or even just a choice band if you can't find an extra bench Pokemon would still make it enough. He just needs to find things along those lines, and he has free trades to find them with, so you got to fancy his odds.
Well, we'll see. It's going to be a big Righteous Beating here for 160 damage, I believe, thanks to that Devoured Field. So it's over to him to see what else he can draw here.
Yep.
He can definitely start trading away. He's got that Nest Ball, which he probably wants to use unless he has no more outs here. He can definitely start getting rid of Rare Candy and Dartrix. They're not going to be too useful for you.
Yeah. He's looks like he opts to trade first, perhaps sort of knowing that he doesn't have any outs left. There's a little bit there. He can place the Nest Ball. He has the Tapu Lele in his hand. Yeah, so he can bench the Zora.
This looks like game.
Yeah, because he's got the Lele in hand, he can just bench that and then attach the double colors to the bench, do Feather Arrow, and as long as he does all his steps properly in order.
Yep, he's got it. He can just bring up his other Zoroark, use that last Feather Arrow, and announce the attack.
Yeah, that's
full game here.
Announce the Feather Arrow.
There we go.
He didn't miss it, and then, yes.
Yeah, and that's going to be game one for Fabrizio. Really interesting back and forth matchup. Both players getting lots of Zoroarks into play, doing, optimal turn against optimal turn. Yeah. And it was just, in the end, Fabrizio able to get enough cards from that judge to round off the game.
Yeah, exactly. And really showing sort of the power in this sort of mirror match that the Decidueye gives you over, it's almost like a consistency versus power trade-off. Obviously, the Decidueye will be less consistent than any variant featuring Ninetales because you don't have as much search power. But if you are able to set up your Decidueye, those Feather Arrows will mean that you're always outpacing the damage compared to your opponent. And so, in an ideal situation, you probably should be winning the game most of the time.
And Fabrizio, he only got one Decidueye out that entire game.
Yeah, exactly.
Just one was enough for him to be tipped over the top and be able to use those damage counters effectively to close out the game. So if he can get more, that's just going to be more headache for Ramon here.
Yeah, it will be. And I think perhaps, although I guess to an extent he was already doing that, he knows that the focus for his next game, if he wants to think about his strategy, has got to be targeting those Rowlets down before they evolve up any further.
Yeah, the matchup is, as we just saw last game, it's always going to be close. Using your Weavars to the best of your ability is going to be a great thing for you, limiting the opponent's Decidueyes, because that's what they're trying to do, whereas the Decidueye player is going to try and limit the amount of Sneasels that they can get down onto the board and get as many Decidueyes out on the board as possible. So it's just going to be that sort of balance that they try and strike up against each other here.
Yeah, and that is going to pretty much decide how the matchup plays out. So from Fabrizio's side, we did see him, his first draw did end up being a mulligan. Now, I'm not sure if Ramon has had a mulligan himself. If he hasn't, but neither player will draw an extra card, of course. But yeah, we kind of, all we're just waiting to do is to see how game two pans out compared to the first. And they've both shuffled up now. So will we see another mulligan this time?
Yeah, both players getting set up. I mean, there are some small hurdles along the way. Can both of them get Elm like they did on turn one, or get lots of basics down even if they don't get Elm? How awkward are their leads? Can they move out of the active? Can they miss double colorless energy before all that Zoroarks are on the board? There are still lots of intricate back and forths in the opening turns that can definitely define the game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, looking at Fabrizio's prizes, we see like 1/1 Zoroark land, a couple of Cynthias and a Devoured Field. Again, nothing too drastic, but could maybe come to be a little bit annoying later. We do see the one counter gain prize for Ramon, though.
Yeah, that can be a little bit awkward. Fabrizio is going to... Looks like he's able to start here.
No, Ramon's going first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the wrong side of the screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's led the Sneasel, and he's got himself that Professor Elm, so he's breathing a sigh of relief. He's got the ideal turn one.
Yeah, and didn't even need to tap a Lele for it as well. No need for Wonder Tag here. Just had the Professor Elm's Lecture in his hand, so he will be able to get himself 3 more Pokemon with 60 or less health. and it looks like it's going to be 2 Zoras and a Alolan Vulpix.
It's a really interesting call for him to not get the Ditto into play as soon as possible, because it becomes a huge liability if Fabrizio is ever threatening to Decidueye GX onto the board. So oftentimes you'd want to get that Ditto out the way early, just so that you can evolve out of it. So a pretty interesting call there from him.
Yeah, maybe just deciding to rather have the slightly bulkier HP stuff out now. But either way, from Fabrizio's side, looks like he's starting with a Nest Ball. That doesn't look like a Professor Elm's lecture to me.
No, that's not really a telltale sign of a Professor Elm. He's actually just playing a Lily Nest Ball engine.
Oh,
so
right.
that's why we saw the Great Balls in his list as well as 3 Timables. He's playing 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Nest Ball, 4 Great Ball, 3 Timables.
That is a lot of Ball Search cards.
that is a lot of Ball Search cards.
And no Apricorn Maker either.
No, he's just trying to use Lily turn 1 to maximize the amount of cards he can get in his hand. So it's been a really interesting debate to see if people would still play a Lily engine, even though we had Professor Elm available. And Fabrizio, he's decided that he likes going for that Lily.
Yeah, I mean, it's again sort of about balancing the luck factor. Like Professor Elm's lecture obviously being very powerful just guarantees you those free basics. But if you can just play Lily and draw all these Ball Search cards, and then also draw other things, and you can just sort of roll along with that, it can really pay off in a tournament like this.
Yeah, it certainly can. Fabrizio is going to Ultra Ball, find himself a Rowlet here. And looks like he's just going to hold on to Timeable Rare Candy Decidueye and pass it over.
Right, so here we go, back on Ramon. He's got how many Zoroarks he's able to get out? There's 1, thus using that straight away to trade, discarding a Professor Elm's lecture. But I don't see any other draw supporters in hand other than Professor Kukui, but I don't really see that as a draw supporter in the same way, because it's just not really as effective. So it looks like instead Ramon is just going to just opt for a Guzma, bring up the Rowlet, and then attach to the active and use Beacon. Yeah,
I don't mind this play at all. If you've got a slightly slower start, definitely take advantage of Beacon. That's one of the things you can always fall back on. Fabrizio does draw into an Ultra Ball. He only plays that one Tapu Lele, which he happened to lead. That's why he did the Ultra Ball just for the sad Rowlet and kind of pass. So we are going to see the Timeable here. He's going to be able to get himself a Zoroark and get himself rolling now.
Yeah, really absolutely fantastic. One head's really being all he needed, considering he had the Decidueye in hand already, so now he can just evolve both of his basics into what he wants them to be, and he can start doing some trades and start seeing some more cards, discarding literally the last card in his hand to do
This
so.
is going to be a big 2 cards here. It's going to be a Max Potion and a Super Boost Energy. Super Boost Energy could get him to use his Hollow Hunt GX attack this turn, which is definitely worthwhile if he's got not much else going for him.
Yes, Super Boost Energy is an interesting one because, of course, the main reason you use it is for the fact that once you have 3 Stage 2 Pokemon out, it does count as 4 Rainbow Energy, essentially. Even if you just attach it to a Stage 2, it counts as 1 Rainbow, no matter how many Stage 2s you have out. So, like you said, you can just use that to use Hollow Hunt here.
And that's exactly what he's going for. He just needs more Ball Search cards. He plays so many, and that's still all he's trying to recover.
Yep, Hollow Hunt for 1 Nest Ball and 2 Ultra Balls, and now back to Ramon.
Let's see what he can come up with. Here comes the army of Zoroark. He's going to kick off with a trade here.
Discarding Professor Kukui. It's always funny when you discard a Professor Kukui off a trade, because you're still drawing 2 cards, but it's like you're not getting the full effect of it. Then it's like you don't want to... I can imagine situations where that looks sort of confusing quite easily.
We are going to see him go straight into the Alolan Ninetales GX. He can get himself an Energy Lotto, seeing as though it basically allows him to dig that much deeper to try and find energy cards, so he can start going for Snowy Winds here and really keep the pressure on.
Yeah, be able to do a solid 100 to the active and 30 to Iota Zoroark on the Tapu Lele, setting up for more knockouts later on. And with the Energy Lotto as well, able to find the second energy, needs to actually do that attack. And it actually just opts to trade first. Yeah,
doing the trade first means he can essentially see 9 cards to try and get off the Energy Lotto. And there's plenty there already, so paying dividends here.
Yep, he has certainly got it, and yet goes to that unit energy. I imagine it's going to be committed straight onto the active, and maybe after that, maybe just trying to go to bench the Ditto, just play a couple more cards. Yep, Ditto goes down. And we've got the Weavile as well. That's really solid. Yeah,
that's really nice for trying to make it as awkward as possible for Fabrizio to take the knockout on him. He can carry on with his turn here with a big Cynthia. So really, really powerful stuff here from Ramon.
Yeah, all he needs to get to what it would be pretty much his ideal setup, all he needs is 2 more Zoroarks. One to evolve the Ditto next turn, and one to evolve this Zorora now, and he will be pretty much good to go.
Yeah, it's all going really swimmingly. That Ditto could also become another Weavile. He plays a 2-2 line, so Fabrizio already has 3 ability Pokemon in play, so this is going to be really, really nice setup from him.
Could even become a second Alolan Ninetales if he wants.
It can be anything you want. That's the joy.
That's why Ditto's so good. There it goes, the Snowy Wind in any case, and it does opt to do 30 to the Zoroark. This makes sense. This now puts Zoroark down to 180 HP, which puts it in range for like a Choice Band, Kukui Devoured Field KO with his own Zoroark, or maybe even just a Weavile Choice Band.
Yeah, absolutely. Putting those Zoroarks in range is going to be a really nice deal for you, because, you know, oftentimes the one who has the most Zoroarks in play is going to be the one who controls the game. Fabrizio going to use that Nest Ball straight out the gate to get himself a Rowlet. He's also going to trade away one of those 2 Ultra Balls that he got back into Nest Ball and Rowlet. That's great value.
Fantastic. So, and he's got Zoro in hand as well, so I imagine he'll probably want to get, because he has 2 Rowlets down already, so you might even want to, oh, interesting. So he actually uses a Nest Ball to get another Rowlet out of the deck, so then I imagine the 5th bench slot will be for the second Zoro, because as much as he wants to get as many Decidueyes out as possible, he knows that if Ramon outdraws him in cut-in trades, then that's not going to work out great for him either.
Yeah, he's reconsidered. He wants to get that Zorua instead. Obviously, he even has them in hand, but you want to thin the deck because he's still supportless right now, so you want to get that straight out of the deck. He may have to go for a Max Potion pass here if he is concerned that the Decidueye is going to get knocked out.
Which is a reasonable concern to have. He's going to go for a Feather Arrow onto the Ditto, just again to sort of threaten the clock on it.
He could be more hopeful and try and get maximum value from that Max Potion, but no, he is going to burn his Super Boost energy, healing his Decidueye, valuing it, and what it can produce. We saw just 1 helped him carry that game 1, so definitely worth trying to preserve as we do pass over to Ramon again.
Yeah, and even the Decidueye active here is absolutely fine, because even if Ramon is able to get that Weavile into the active with an energy on it, even if he gets the completely nuts play where he gets a Choice Band, Devoured Field, Kukui and all of that, it still won't KO the Decidueye because it has 240 HP.
Yeah, that's a really difficult amount for Ramon to ever reach, so he's going to be looking for things like Guzma this turn, I think. If he can take a knockout on that 1 Zoroark, he's going to be in really good shape.
Yeah, and if he can do it, if he has energy, sort of a unit energy or Rainbow plus Choice Band plus the Guzma, he could take out the Zoroark, but no, looks like just another Snowy Wind onto the active. Maybe Fabrizio thinking, oh, I could have actually waited 1 more turn after all.
Potentially, yeah, but whenever there's that many Zoroarks on the board, you always have to assume that your opponent can do. You have to assume the worst, essentially.
Yeah.
And finally, Fabrizio's drawn into some supporter cards. He can actually attach double colorless energy and deal with one of these Weaviles if he wants to with a Guzma to move his Decidueye out the way.
Yes.
It does put his Zoroark in the line of fire, but he has a Cynthia to follow up with.
He does, and I think at this point it's a risk he might just have to take, because yeah, it does mean that Zoroark could potentially go down. There he goes, another Feather Arrow onto the Weavile. And indeed, Right Speeding will pick up the KO. Yeah,
the Feather Arrow onto the Weavile is an interesting one. Potentially, I would have liked to seen it on some of these other GX attackers to put them in range of your Zoroark, because you're probably going to have to deal with that Weavile in 1 hit, and he's only got 1 other Rowlet that could become a Decidueye, so Ramon here, he can force Fabrizio to knock it out, and essentially he's wasted some Feather Arrow damage now. Yeah, it's just thinking that, actually, because if he'd done the Feather Arrows onto the Ninetales or Zoroark instead, like you said, he actually get closer to KOing them with more Feather Arrows, but now if Ramon just leaves his Weavile active, takes the KO with it, and Fabrizio can't move it out of the way, then those Feather Arrows, like you said, kind of did nothing. But here we go, Ramon, he's got that Weavile in the active position. He's starting to trade. He's got his 3rd Zoroark online. His deck is running beautifully. That is the joy of having an all Stage 1 Zoroark build, as opposed to Fabrizio, who's had, even with the amount of ball search cards he's had, just leading that Tapu Lele has really hurt him in his development in this game. It has, and another Sneasel goes down as well, so even if this Weavile is dealt with, if Ramon can find a rescue stretcher, then there'll be a 3rd Weavile to deal with. Yeah, really punishing Fabrizio's deck here. And he's got that Choice Band in his hand. He's going to be able to take the knockout on the Zoroark with that clever placement of 3 damage counters earlier on with the Alolan Ninetales GX. Yep. And so Evil Admonition picks up the knockout. 2 prizes for Ramon. Now back to Fabrizio as he draws a great ball for his turn
but instead just opts to discard it with an Ultra Ball just to guarantee himself the Zoroark and then play the Cynthia.
Yeah, seeing 6 new cards and getting 1 Zoroark into the active is definitely going to be the approach that you need here. You can't let this Weavile stay on the board much longer. It's already taken a big 2-prize knockout. You've got a damaged Decidueye, you've got a Tapu Lele that's getting in range for Zoroarks later down the line. Ramon's been very clever with his spread damage. So fortunately, Fabrizio has drawn into a double Color Synergy, and he still has his trade available, still has another Great Ball that he's drawn into. Hopefully he can start building his board now.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be the ideal situation for him. He opts to go for the trade first, discards Lily, draws 2, and he sees a rare candy, 2 even.
Man, I was about to say you should probably use the Great Ball first so you have a higher chance of getting into the rare candy, but what do I know? Just get 2 straight off the top.
Just don't need it, man. Just too good.
But yeah, so it means he can get into a second Decidueye here if he wants to play that many abilities. This is the thing. There's a Sneasel in the back that's just ready to become another Weavile, so that may be the reason why Fabrizio is not over the moon about having to, or about seeing those rare candies here. You actually see him pull out the Dartrix, so he may have to lie in wait for this Decidueye to come later on.
Yeah, and of course, the nice thing about evolving into Dartrix this turn is that he can just, he doesn't even need the rare candy. Even if his hand gets shuffled away with a Judge or something, all he needs to do is draw the Decidueye and he will be able to get it back online, which will be good for him. But indeed, those Feather Arrows on the Weavile were just kind of wasted.
Unfortunate for him, but he is at least able to deal with this one Weavile. Ramon now sends up his Zoroark with the double Color Synergy on. It's down to him to see if he can keep pressing the advantage, maybe dealing with the Decidueye or the Tapu Lele in the back would really put more pressure on Fabrizio this turn.
Yeah, it really would. Now, something I would be interested in seeing is having a look at Fabrizio's list is what his Acerola count is like, if any, because no, he's actually not playing any Acerola. I'm thinking one cool thing he could do is maybe Acerola the Decidueye on the bench and then evolve the other one and sort of do 2 Feather Arrows whilst only keeping 1 ability on the field, but that's, no.
Yeah, it's not possible for him, and you'd sort of expect it. In most Zoroark decks, Acerola is kind of expected, but not being incorporated into this list, just the 1 copy of Max Potion. He's already used Hollow Hunt GX as well, so that's no longer an option for him. So this damage that's been spread around the board is going to stay and going to be always helpful for Ramon later on.
Yeah, which is really not great news for Fabrizio. Now, minor saving grace here. Fabrizio is unlikely to... Rather, Ramon isn't going to be able to take 2 prizes this turn, at least. That's what he's going for at the very least. So he does actually just decide to go for the Dartrix with the Guzma.
Yeah, he's once again trying to control Fabrizio and how much damage he can accelerate as few Decidueyes as possible. As we said at the start of this game, that's pretty much a good option. He had the sort of option to try and be more aggressive on some other GX Pokemon, but he's opting against it, just taking another Dartrix off the board and punishing Fabrizio by having, that Sneasel still lying in wait if ever he wants to keep drawing and developing more Zoroarks now.
Yes, so now a rare candy gets discarded off of the trades, draw 2 more cards. Fabrizio finds his own Ditto Prism Star, and he does find a Zoroark too. And so now another trade will happen. Draws a Great Ball and a Nest Ball.
4 abilities already on the board. He's going to Nest Ball, try and replay that Rowlet. He, now that he's sort of gone over the edge with abilities, he's just going to try and get some Decidueyes onto the board. But it feels like by not evolving that Decidueye, he was kind of in the catch-22 last turn, where if he'd evolved the Decidueye, the next Weavile could have been huge, so he kind of didn't, and then got Guzma'd, and now he's kind of behind on Feather Arrows, but at least he's been able to Guzma up the Sneasel this turn, take a prize, and also put a Feather Arrow on a Zoroark, which is much more helpful.
Yeah, I think that's the best turn that Fabrizio could have asked for at this point. He's, well, perhaps not the ideal situation to be in. He's now made it, he's forced Ramon to basically have another Guzma plus a Choice Band plus 2 Pokemon to take a KO on the Decidueye, for example. And because the active there's not enough damage on the active for Ramon to KO that.
You see Ramon with a huge hand size. He's eyeing up a Palpad now, seeing as though he's just drawn into a Tapu Lele. That gives him the option to maybe go for some Kukui plays or potentially continue to Guzma down some of these lower hit point Pokemon. He is going to start recycling at least 1 copy of Guzma. He does have a second one in there, so he's going to start trying to use those. He has the Tapu Lele to guarantee it, so he could continue his onslaught on those Rowlets.
Yeah, he can, and it'll be interesting to see if he does have a Choice Band in his hand, and if he does, whether he does opt to attach it and then go for the knockout on the Decidueye, but it doesn't look like he does. So did he trade that Kukui away, or did he play it?
Yeah, I believe he traded it away. Seeing as though he pal-padded back in those 2 Guzmas, I've got to think that he's going to use Alolan Ninetales to deal with a Rowlet this turn, put him down to 2 prize cards, and again set up that both the Decidueye and the Tapu Lele at the same time, really put pressure on the opponent, and we are now seeing that Sneasel come back into play, that Tapu Lele come down onto the board, and again, he's just been attacking on all fronts here.
Yeah, he has, and he opts for Guzma, bringing up the Rowlet again, knowing that you can't really just deal with the Decidueye itself right now, just taking down those Rowlets before they can become bigger threats, and actually opting to attack with the Alolan Ninetales, doing 30 to the Zoroark as well, setting that up for a follow-up KO. Yeah,
and we saw how important it was earlier in this game. It helped him reach a one-hit KO with his Weavile later down the line, so it almost renders the Zoroark as a liability now, and it's going to force Fabrizio to find himself another double Colourless Energy, as Ramon really is starting to pull ahead in this race.
Yeah, and it's, of course, interesting to note as well that obviously Alolan Ninetales GX, being a Fairy type, has resistance to Dark, so even if Fabrizio has, the big combo of Feather Arrows and everything else, I don't think he's actually in a position where he can reach for a KO this turn.
No, I don't think he can, not on the Alolan Ninetales, so he's going to have to try and, again, deal with Sneasel or try and get some sort of comeback going on here.
I don't see a Guzma in his hand.
Oh, man. This is going to be rough. He's got 4 abilities on the board, so if he can't deal with the Sneasel, the Weavile is going to be very dangerous next turn, and it could be wrapping up the game here.
Yes, it could. Down goes to Ditto. It's another ability.
He's thinking at this point, well, I've got 4 on the board. What's 5?
Yeah, exactly. And Feather Arrow onto the Sneasel, and Writer's Beating onto the active. And I think Ramon has the energy in the Weavile, right?
I'd be surprised if he doesn't have the combination at the end of this. His deck size was looking pretty thin. He's just drawn into the Timer Ball. He has Ultra Ball already in his hand, so he can keep trading away if he wants to. It looks like they're just saying that the resistance is correct, and that means that damage can stay.
And
he's drawn
missed
into
the he's got the energy.
He's got Weavile. I think he's just got it all, to be honest.
Yep, he's got it all. He just brings up the Tapu Lele. He's got the unit energy in his hand, so he'll attach that. And Evil Admonition will seal Game 2 for Ramon. Yeah,
closing it up. There's still 30 minutes left for a Game 3 here. Both players on 6-1 record, so a win would be ideal for them. A tie's not the worst thing in the world. It does put them into a win-and-in situation, essentially. It puts them in pretty good stead. They could just tie their last round, actually, and be fine. So a tie's not the worst outcome for them, but the more wins, the better. And if you can steal a win against a Zoroark player with 13 minutes left to go, that's the dream.
Yeah, that is absolutely the dream, and I'm sure that's what they will be going for if they feel it is at all possible, because, of course, that's always what you end up wanting to go for. So the tricky thing here is just going to be, like you said, there is 13 minutes left on the clock, which is not an insignificant amount of time, but it does mean that they're going to be quite pushed here, because we have seen these Zoroark mirrors, because there's so much decision-making that goes on, the thought processes take a while. It can sort of take like a little bit for these games to fully play out, and 13 minutes at regular pace is not really enough to finish the Zoroark mirror.
That's true, but what I do like about this series so far is we've seen how both decks have flourished. We've seen how powerful the Decidueye can be for perfect math fixing, and then in that Game 2 we saw how you can create multiple threats by having multiple Weaviles representing big one-hit KOs whilst also doing some good spread damage, picking off the most important Pokemon by spamming Guzma whenever possible, and stopping Fabrizio getting lots of Decidueye into play.
Yeah, and with the important snipes as well, like I said, just that really important residual damage from Snowy Wind, placing 13 places to put things in range for follow-up knockouts with Writer's Beating is just really strong as well.
Yeah, it looks like he put the damage in all the right spots, which is one of the reasons why he was able to navigate the game so easily, because he did those damage counters in the right places with those Snowy Winds. And now that Fabrizio is going to be the one able to go first here, maybe he can get the jump on him and get lots of Decidueyes onto the board first.
Yeah, again, prize-wise, nothing, a good enough spread of different things for both players that it shouldn't bother either of them too much in the early stages. Fabrizio will, of course, be going first, having lost Game 2, and he does actually start with a Lily for 4.
Lily for 4 with a couple of good basics on the board already. Not too much help from there, though. He's just going to attach a Grass Energy on the back and send it over to Ramon.
Yeah, who does have the Professor Elm's Lecture in his hand, ready to go.
It's one of those risks. Fabrizio is playing lots of ball search cards to try and make the Lily engine work, whereas Ramon's just going, hey, I want to guarantee these basics.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that, in terms of the trade-off of, whilst being a bit slower, making Professor Elm so much more powerful, is that you don't end up using slots, dedicating so many slots in your deck to search cards just to sort of guarantee that consistency. Because you can search out the Professor Elms with the Tapu Lele and you only need to dedicate 4 of your deck slots to it, it leaves you more spaces in your deck for other things.
Yeah, I mean, Fabrizio is committing 15 deck slots to ball search cards just because he doesn't want to whiff off of Lilies, whereas Ramon can just go for the Ultra Balls, a few Timer Balls here and there, but just have 4 Professor Elm.
Yeah, exactly, and he doesn't end up in the same situation that Fabrizio sometimes ends up, where he does trade, and he just sees 2 ball search cards, which he has no use for.
Yeah, absolutely. He's able to round out his turn, grabbing himself 2 Zoroark GX with that beacon, so an excellent start from Ramon. Looks like he's getting his ideal setup going. We do pass over to Fabrizio. It looks like he's picked up a ball search card to the start of his turn.
Yeah, it was a nest ball.
He also has a Zoroark in hand, so we're going to see some more going through here and see how well he gets set up.
He's looks like he's just having a little bit of a debate as to what the better basic to get at this point is. He looks like he did opt for the Zora in the end, so realizing that getting the second Rowlet out, whilst important, is not the maximum priority right now. He just wants to be able to guarantee himself some more draw, if at all possible.
Here comes Zoroark number 1. He's also going to play down a Devoured Field to draw 1 more card from Lily. He's drawn into another Nest Ball, and another Zoroark. This is a really good start from him.
Yeah, that Lily was almost as good as it gets, pretty much. Just able to find a second Zoroark, and now with another Nest Ball, able to get down that second Rowlet. And really importantly, actually, this the KO is pretty huge, because not only does it stop Ramon from being able to access the ability to get the 2 items with the Alolan Ninetales, but just not having access to Alolan Ninetales itself as an attacker sets him back quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to see that first trade. Fabrizio being hesitant on whether or not he needs to play down Zoroark. He already has an energy attached, and he does want to be careful about his ability usage. That's why normally you just see people slapping down Zoroarks, trading more cards every time. Fabrizio's taking a moment to consider, is it worth me putting more Zoroarks into play, because there's always a Sneasel staring me down.
Yeah. I think that 3 is probably sort of the ideal balance of abilities. It means that you've got enough to actually work with to execute your strategy, but it means that your opponent needs to have a really big combination of cards in order to KO with Weavile, because they do need the Choice Band and the Kukui and the Devoured Field. Although Fabrizio has done some of the work for Ramon, putting down the Devoured Field already.
That's true. Ramon's able to slap down his own 2 Zoroarks that he beaconed for immediately. He is eyeing up that counter gain as well, so it means that if he draws into any energy, he's then able to get attacking, but he is holding on to a double colorless already. He has a Tapu Lele in his hand as well as Ultra Ball, so he's flying through his turn.
Yeah, he absolutely is, and I believe that there was another Ultra Ball, again, looking through to see what the best thing to go for here is. He has not got a Weavile out yet, I believe, and of course Alolan Ninetales is not an option for him anymore, given that the Vulpix is KO'd, so he just does decide to grab the Ditto.
Look at the bravery of this man. He sees 2 Rowlets, he goes ahead and grabs that Ditto Prism Star. No fear from him.
Well, I guess his logic must be, if... okay, he's going to KO one.
Well, if you deal with 1.
Yeah, that makes it okay. The other logic, I guess, could have been if he's confident that the Sneasel won't get KO'd, then actually Fabrizio getting 2 Decidueyes down just plays into his hand anyway. Yeah,
it could almost be the bait forcing Fabrizio to put lots of abilities into play so Weavile can start sweeping. So dealing with that 1 Rowlet, as he's done throughout this entire series, trying to deny Decidueyes whenever possible. Fabrizio now doing the same thing he's been doing the entire series, trying to deny Weaviles the entire series.
Yeah.
It's just been Guzma after Guzma from both players.
Yeah, sort of both knowing what to prioritize in terms of threats to deal with. And now, for off that second trade, we actually do see an Ultra Ball from Fabrizio, so probably going to be seeing a Dartrix, I'd imagine, off of this, so he can evolve up the Rowlet on the bench.
Yeah, it could certainly be a Dartrix or just more basic Pokemon if he wishes. We are going to see him. It looks like he's looking to discard that Super Boost energy, but he's going to hold on to it for 1 more turn. Get rid of the Choice Band instead. He's going to go ahead and find himself another Rowlet. That means, of course, the Varus beating is going to be dealing with this Weavile and again threatening more Decidueyes for later turns.
Yeah, the Super Boost energy in this deck particularly is kind of an interesting one because it doesn't have quite that same level of, offensive force that it would do in something that's playing like Swampert, for example, where you can just get a massive swing attacker out of nowhere. But the fact that it, at its worst, is just a rainbow on a Decidueye and just enables you to Hollow Hunt is still fine. And then if you do happen to get 3 Decidueyes out, then, you can still you maybe get a surprise Razor Leaf in, it might KO something that's grass weak. So it can still be pretty good.
Yeah, I still think it's reasonable. What's really interesting about Fabrizio's deck is that he's not really playing many Lost Thunder cards. He's just playing the Ditto Prism Star. And a lot of people have picked up Decidueye all over again because of the Elms and the Alolan Ninetales of the world. But he's just playing like an old-fashioned build of Zoroark Decidueye. And it's maybe just the case that this deck is better placed than it has been previously.
Yeah, I think that seems like a reasonable way to assess the situation. Now, more trades from Fabrizio's side, as we did see him Guzma up the Ditto. They're obviously not able to get out the Decidueyes because Ramon keeps using Guzma to KO the Rowlets. But now with 2 Rowlets down, at the very least, Fabrizio should be able to get 1 Decidueye out. And that's assuming that Ramon has yet another Guzma.
Yeah, that's a really nice knockout for Fabrizio. That means that Ramon is going to be on him to put more Sneasels down, and it's going to be a turn where he again has to try and Guzma another Rowlet. It's going to be that whole fandango all over again. It's the dance that they've been playing this whole hour pretty much, where they're just trying to Guzma up, I'll put a threat down, then I'll Guzma your threat, and they're both trying to do this balancing act throughout the game.
Yeah, and the fact that Ramon wasn't able to get down a Sneasel last turn and had to put one down now meant that Fabrizio probably felt a lot safer with his ability usage. And really, what Ramon would like to do, ideally, if he could, is get 2 Sneasels down, because that way, if one goes down, at least he has another one that he can still evolve and threaten an attack with, but he just hasn't been able to do that.
It looks like Ramon has blinked first. He's had to use a Cynthia rather than a Guzma this turn. He did Tapu Lele, so he could have chosen to deal with a Rowlet this turn, but instead, he's going to try and get himself a fresh 6 cards and start putting damage on Fabrizio's active Zoroark.
Indeed, he has, and off that Cynthia, he does see another Zoroark. That's great for him. See Choice Band and Alolan Vulpix, so we're going to put that down, and then if it survives next turn, he can finally get out an Alolan Ninetales and start searching out some items and maybe setting up some Snowy Wind plays.
He's going to trade away 1 Choice Band. He does have Energy Lotto in his hand, so it would be pretty unfortunate to miss the double Colorless Energy from here. Let's see if he's able to. Nothing from the first. There it is. Okay. Huge sigh of relief from Ramon as he does not miss a beat here. He's going to be able to use Righteous Beating at the end of this turn.
Yeah, that would have been very, very sad if he ended up missing the attack, because in terms of tempo, that's almost conceding right there as it is, because Fabrizio has 3 trades to access next turn himself, and that means he's probably going to be able to get out a lot of more ability, or a lot more Decidueyes, and maybe find a Guzma to KO the Sneasel, so that those getting out those Decidueyes doesn't even come back to bite him.
So here comes the double Colorless Energy, and he's just going to end out his turn using Righteous Beating, choosing not to bench that Alolan Vulpix, so that's not an option for him.
Interesting. Why do you think, what would be the consideration there in doing that?
It's a difficult one. Oftentimes you may want to try and just have more Sneasel space, but you've got to think that Fabrizio is going to try and target that down this turn.
Yeah, exactly. That's especially with the amount of trades he has going for him. He has a lot of cards in his hand as well.
And especially if Fabrizio is able to use that Guzma on the Sneasel, which already looks like it's already, planted nice and safe in his hand, it means this might be the first game where he's able to get multiple Decidueyes up on the board and really start taking control of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. That Guzma is ready to go in his hand, and we do see a Timer Ball as well. That is 1 heads and 1 tails. So is he going to search anything?
Yeah, I'm sure he will. He was just scouting his hand to see if he needed to get anything else.
Yeah.
He's going to get himself a Dartrix, as he only has 1 rare candy in his hand currently.
Yeah, and he has the Decidueye in his hand already, so it absolutely makes sense to go for the Dartrix here. And 1 goes there, and then let's just see, rare candy into the old Decidueye, and there is
Max Potion as well. That's his 1 copy of Max Potion, used to perfection. The 1 turn that Ramon did not do a Guzma knockout is getting punished by that 1 copy of Max Potion at the opportune moment. He's also going to use that Guzma to deal with the Sneasel, and he's got a Feather Arrow as well that he can place on one of these Zoroarks, I can imagine. He could also be going for endgame and trying to find a Tapu Lele, but no, he is just going to try and deal with one of these Zoroark.
Yeah, so Fabrizio sort of playing out his setup to near perfection here. He is able to, with all of this, he's now put himself in a very dominant position. There's going to be another Decidueye hitting the field next turn, and Ramon cannot punish it with a Weavile, so you've got to be smiling if you're Fabrizio at this point.
We're going to see Ramon go for the Pal Pad to get himself a couple copies of Guzma, And this game is really motored through. Both players have been playing at a really fast tempo. There's still a minute left of this game. Fabrizio down at 2 prizes. Ramon still could be taken more this turn. So I feel like we could get a final conclusion here.
Yeah, I feel like as well. And I feel like at this point, Fabrizio probably will take this. Ramon's not out of it completely. He still has quite a few options available to him. But Fabrizio set himself up really nicely to actually see this game through to the end and win.
Here we see a few more trades. Maybe something like a judge could slow Fabrizio down long enough so that Ramon could hold on here. There's not many other supporters he may want to play this turn. He doesn't really want to put the Zoroark on his bench in the line of fire if it's already got 2 damage counters on it. Even if he is dealing with the dart tricks, that could be awkward for him. So potentially the judge, depending on how large Fabrizio's hand size is the best move here.
Yeah, it's... although actually it does opt to bench a Tapu Lele GX. Is he going for? He's going for a Guzma of his own. Maybe he's just going to try and realize, look, the time is running short. Maybe I can just stop Fabrizio from taking the last 2 prizes and win the game that way.
Certainly could be the case. Whenever you can stop a Decidueye hitting the field, that's always going to be a good move for you. So he is still eyeing up that Alolan Vulpix, which now this turn he is going to put onto the field. He is going to use Guzma on that Dart Tricks, promote the Zoroark with 2 damage counters already on it. And looks like he's going to be going down to 3 prize cards with Riotous Beating.
So now it comes down to, can Fabrizio seal the game here? He's going to bring up the Decidueye. All he needs is 2 bench Pokemon and a Choice Band and a Guzma, and he can seal the game by KOing one of the Tapu Leles.
Let's see if he can get it off of these 3 trades. He's going to get rid of a Great Ball to kick things off here. He's drawing into more Ball Search cards, more Decidueye pieces, which he would have loved to have last turn.
Yep.
And he's going to go for a second trade here.
More Ball Search cards.
More Ball Search cards, more Pokemon. He could have played some of these Ball Search cards out, you know. He could have used the Great Ball at the beginning of his turn to help find that Tapu Lele, help him dig deeper, but he's continuing to do all of his actions first here. He could have thinned the deck a little bit more. It looks like he's going to go for a Super Boost Energy onto his active here. Looks like he's not got game this turn.
On goes a Feather Arrow onto the Tapu Lele, setting himself up for the play. And looks like he's just going to go for a hollow hunt here. So now Ramon has to play the judge because Fabrizio is obviously going to get the cards to seal the game for him next turn. Yeah,
it's frustrating that Fabrizio didn't play any more of those cards out of his hand. He definitely could have put himself in better shape against a judge. But especially in this sort of situation where time's been called, it's going to be, judge either gets him game or doesn't.
Yeah.
So playing out those Ball Search cards could have really helped him against a judge coming down next turn. Even using the Great Ball could have thinned the deck. Using Nest Ball could have thinned the deck a lot more. So although he's sitting in a good spot after this Hollow Hunt, sort of threatening game, because Ramon does carry the judge, it could be denied from him here.
Yeah, this is going absolutely down to the wire. At this point, Ramon cannot win. So the best he can hope for is a tie. So it really just comes down to, can he stop Fabrizio from getting the win and squeak out the tie?
And you can see how big Fabrizio's hand size is now. It's a no-brainer to Ramon to use the judge. It's already in his hand, so that's always going to be happening. We may even see a play where he doesn't even start attacking Fabrizio. He just retreats into a healthier Zoroark to make life more awkward for him.
Yeah, just force Fabrizio to find that Guzma, essentially.
Yeah, that's got to be what he looks for here. He's going to do some trading first and try and cycle through his deck to see if that puts him in any better stead. Can't think of many things that he's wanted to look for here.
Maybe just getting as much out of his deck as possible.
Getting rid of cards before the judge is still reasonable because you're drawing into better cards after that, so that's never a bad thing.
Yeah, and he does see another double Color Senji and a Unit Energy too. But yeah, we know he's going to be playing that judge.
He knew at the start of the turn he'd be playing the judge pretty much. Because when you see a Hollow Hunt for the cards that give Fabrizio game, you've probably got to remove those from his hand.
Is he? Hold on, is he considering not playing it?
I think he's just debating whether or not it's worth retreating. Again, trying to be as safe as possible. Whoa, he's going to promote the Tapu Lele GX.
That is...
This is a really interesting decision.
He's evolved up into the Alolan Ninetales now. He's using Mysterious Guidance. He fetches a Rescue Stretcher and a Field Blower.
Some curious decisions definitely at the end here. And we're going to see the Field Blower. Are we going to see the judge at the end of this sequence?
I mean, he's going to go for the Incirola.
Okay, he's going to Acerola put the other Tapu Lele into the active position and saying, Fabrizio, you've got yourself lots of Guzmas, but do you have yourself another energy to retreat? And that's definitely something that he does have.
Yeah, so now he just needs 2 bench Pokemon.
I think Ramon took an unnecessary risk there.
Yeah, absolutely, because now Fabrizio just announces Feather Arrow, does right speeding, and
There
takes
we
the
go.
game.
He takes the game in the last turn of time, able to overcome Ramon there.
Yeah.
I feel like the judge could have been the safer option there.
Yeah.
Because the hand size was so large from Fabrizio, but at the same time, there was lots of Zoroarks on that board, and he could have drawn into game regardless.
Yeah, so maybe just thinking that it wasn't worth doing, but either way, Fabrizio having everything he needed in hand to take the win, and again another popular win from the crowd. Fabrizio obviously probably got a lot of his friends who came over with him from Argentina to support him, and very happy that he was able to seal the win there.
And again, I find it so interesting that we've been ranting and raving about Lost Thunder all day. And I feel like the only Lost Thunder card that Fabrizio is playing in his list is that one copy of Ditto Prism Star. That's like literally the only card that he plays from the new set. And he's got this far in the tournament just with an old